Okay, something that I saw this week. I didn't really want to. At first, I didn't really have an opinion on it, but apparently, there is a company in China called Fuze, and they are launching a console called the F1, and they have said that they are aiming to beat Sony and Microsoft at their own game. Um, Yeah, and it looks a lot like you have an Xbox One controller, um, and you have what looks like a combination of a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One console box or uh, chassis there. So you've got a. It's going to be Android based, and before we jump on previous Android consoles and how they haven't really um, met the demands of the gamer. It is running an NVIDIA Tegra K1 processor um, along with an NVIDIA Kepler CPU. And I remember when this first came out, not many mobile, and this is a mobile processor, by the way. This is not anything that's really designed for something that's going to plug into your power supply in the wall. So this is a mobile processor. It's very impressive. I believe it can basically do what a PlayStation 3 360 experience can give you. But that being said, and by the way, they're going to sell it at two different price points. Um, there will be one model, a low-end model at $138 in Chinese currency, and then a $230 elite package that comes with a 500 gig hard drive um, version for it as well. And the interesting thing is that I believe it was just recently that video game sales and consoles have been allowed to be sold in China. Before, they were very, very restricted, if not altogether banned. And I believe they had something where they had a little tiny zone in China where it was basically a test market to see how well it did. China is a very interesting country. They have interesting rules over there, to say the least. Um, but it's interesting that hey, they're actually opening up their market to video games, and as such, we have this Android-based console coming out that it may be able to do PS3 360 level graphics, and they want to compete with Sony and Microsoft. What are your thoughts on that?
First off, congratulations to China for actually being able to enjoy life and actually be able to play some video games. Yeah, that definitely deserves a clap. I actually didn't know that, so that really surprised me and kind of shocked me too. Um, but I think as far as them being able to compete with Microsoft and Sony, although that's extremely impressive for probably their first console ever, um, making Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 games or games that look like that belong in that era, I don't really see how you can compete with stuff like that. It's definitely impressive for their first console, but in my opinion, no, I don't think they're going to be able to compete with Sony and Microsoft at least for a while. I have heard that they plan on like 76 games being released for it in the making right now.
And not no-name titles either. We're talking established franchises. Pull that back up here. Things in the vein of Saints Row, Assassin's Creed, Dynasty Warriors. We're not talking we're not talking like a
Brand new.
IP or like indie games
Yeah.
that we've seen on other Android-based systems.
Yeah. So I think if they want to try and make it into that race, by all means, enter it. Rather you think you're going to get in first place with the first console, there's always, you can always hope. I don't see it happening. That being said, I'm not saying that I think it's going to be a bad console or anything like that. For all I know, it could be just as good as the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 ever was. But then that's where it'll sit. It'll be better than the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Well, the whole world has PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones to compare that to. So hopefully they don't look back to this article and just shove it in their face. Like, it's their first one. Let them dream.
Cut them some slack.
Yeah. For all you know, in the near future, they could be running first.
They very well could become, uh, join the big three and make it a big four. Um, let me focus on the positives here first. First of all, anytime in any market, be it video game or music or movies, any market you can literally think of, the more competition you have, the better. Period. That's always a good thing. And if you're a fanboy of Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo, you do need to realize that they all push each other to be better because they are competing for your money. If we only had one, and this is when I always get nervous when people start talking about, oh well, eventually they're just gonna fuse into one company, or we're gonna have one console choice, and it'll just be the. Stop talking about that. That's a very, very bad idea. You need competition, otherwise you're going to have games consistently releasing at $90. You're going to have a $700 console because the only other competitor is a $1,000 PC. Like, that's a bad idea, and I hope it never happens. I don't think it ever will happen. Now, as far as so yeah, that's great that they are getting in. I'm glad that they have something done. Will it beat Sony and Microsoft? No way. Just no way. That's like, have you seen the Wii U and how it's performed against Sony and Microsoft and has no third-party support? Because it's a weaker console. It's on the level of PlayStation 3 and 360, and you don't have grandpa and grandma buying the consoles anymore because they want to get fit. They have a Wii now. They're still probably using their Wii and Wii Fit and trying to, stop osteoporosis. Something like that. Um, I love the elderly. Just don't let my sarcasm fool you. But yeah, it's a good effort. That is a solid processor. It can do a lot with performance, more than you might think. I'm just curious as to what they're going to do with the Saints Row, Assassin's Creed, Dynasty Warriors. Are we just going to get ports? I mean, that might work and that might be successful over in China. And by the way, you just have to be successful in the company that you are in. Nintendo will be okay as long as they continue to be successful in Japan. Worldwide, that's just icing on the cake. They may not be as big of a company, but as long as they're doing well in Japan, they'll be fine. As long as Sony does well in Japan, they'll be fine. As long as Microsoft does well in America, they'll be fine. So yeah, if they can basically, and it was 2014, by the way, where consoles were legalized in China. So here we are, 2016, and they have their own console, and they've been, basically been trying to. Nintendo, it actually says in the same article, Nintendo abandoned plans to enter the Chinese market. After initially planning to enter, and Sony and Microsoft looks like they have their products out there, but it's hard to get sales there. So yeah, I think this thing can be successful And this is such a unique situation where you have a country legalize something, and what the rest of the world enjoys, they don't necessarily buy it. So it's hard to say, but I think they have a good chance in their own, in the nation that they're in. Um, so yeah, I wish them well. It's not going to do as well as Sony and Microsoft, at least in the other regions. But yeah, why not?